Hello, everyone. Welcome to Impact Over Image. Today, I'm very, very excited to be joined by a good friend, Mr. Aaron Ngambi. Welcome. I've been looking forward to having you on this show, and it's a pleasure to have you on finally.
Thank you for having me. It's good to be here, and I'll be back anytime that you want me back, as long as the schedule allows.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it, sir. So now I'll give a little bit of a background about Aaron. Aaron Ngambi hails from Zambia. That's the same country as I'm from as well. We've known each other, I think, since we were teenagers. When I look at the timelines, we were both teenagers in Zambia and we've been friends ever since. And now, it's not a little bit more about the background. I'll give what he does and what he will bring to this show. The background is that Aaron Ngambi is a geopolitical analyst. He is also a columnist for a number of newspapers in the region, in the Southern African region, one in Zambia, one in South Africa. And what he did when he was in college, he went and studied political science. And I'm so excited for us to kind of dive deeper on what actually caused him even to actually pursue political science. But welcome on the show, Vakalamba. And I think I'm very grateful that you made the time for sure.
Now, thank you for having me. I'll have to do this one for you, Joseph. We've come a long way, my brother. And say
Yes.
no when you asked me to be here.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Now, with that said, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself in your own words?
So I introduced myself as Aaron Ngambi, like you said. I'm a son of peasant farmer. My father died in April of 2021. I miss him dearly. He was a great example to me. My mother is alive. She's still in Karulushi. That's the hometown where I grew up. And then also, I have two older sisters. I have five younger brothers. We are all over the place. So I come from a big family. And growing up, I grew up in a traditional African setup. We grew up with cousins, aunties, uncles, and our neighbors were not just neighbors, we were a big family. So I describe myself as someone that is very much cautious of our people, and that we're nothing without those people that helped raise us, and that we come of a great civilization. We come from a great people. And that is what defines me. That is what makes me Aaron Ngambi. It's not myself. It's not my own doing, but it is the upbringing and the people I grew up with and those who've contributed to where I am today.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for that introduction of yourself. Now, with that said, let's just dive in. Why political science? Has it always been your dream to think that, hey, at some point, even when you're going through primary school or elementary school, others may call it, and then when you graduated, you completed your high school. Have you always thought about going into political science as a major when you got to college?
I've always been interested in politics, even at a very young age. I remember, I think I was about 10 years old. My friends would be out there playing soccer, running around. I was interested in studying social studies and I was interested in following the news. I grew up in the 90s during the era of Dr. Chiluba, the late president of the Republic of Zambia. He was the second Republican president. And Dr. Chiluba was very charismatic and he was very impressive from the outlook of things. So during that time, I'd always be glued to the television at 7 p.m., 19 hours Zambian time, to listen to the news and watch Dr. Chiluba speak. In 1996, Dr. Chiluba faced a challenger by the name of the late Dean Mungomba, who formed a political party. He was actually a deputy finance minister to Dr. Chiluba at the time. And then they fell out and he formed his own political party called Zadeko at that time. And he challenged Dr. Chiluba. And I thought I was very impressed by Dr. Chiluba and I liked him. But when Dean Mungomba came on the scene, he just swept me off my feet. I was impressed by this man, even at that young age. In fact, my father also liked him very much. So I followed politics since I was very young. I don't think there's anything that I don't know much about the Zambian history in terms of our political background. And then, interestingly, the late Dean Mungomba, who challenged Dr. Chiluba in 1996, he came to America for school. He did economics and finance for undergraduate and a master's, graduating top of the class. And he lived in Texas. He was a banker in Texas before he went back home to Zambia to become a politician. And so there was so much that impressed me about him. I never, of course, knew at that point that I would go to America at one point. But Dean Mungom, the way he was articulating issues and the way he projected himself as a politician was unique from what we saw, before. So it is that interest that I had. And then, of course, after Chiluba, Mwanawasa came into power. Mwanawasa is one of the best presidents we've had. So I've always liked politics. But also, I think the other reason why I've always been attracted to issues of politics, because the only two things that, if you think about, that affect people very much and even evoke emotions from people, that is politics and religion. Those are two subjects that me and my father constantly spoke about. I think if you remove away politics, religion, and soccer, football,
Yes.
I think me and my dad would be in the same room and probably be quiet for a couple minutes or hours. But those were major topics, because if I read something or if I saw something on TV and I thought he didn't see it, I'd want to talk to him about it. So that generated interest over time. It became very clear for me when I did a program, volunteered with the church, on a program, a voluntary program for a period of time, about 2 years. When I did that, it became very clear to me that if there's only one gift that God has given me is to work with people or serve people. I'm not the most brilliant person you ever meet. I am not the most sophisticated person you ever meet, but definitely I'm somebody that is able to get along with people. So once I finished that program, I thought to myself, what am I going to do that will constantly engage people, that will have me be fully involved in the lives of serving other people? I couldn't think of any better route than going to school for political science. And of course, I had the opportunity to go to Hawaii to study political science, and it's just been a great experience since then.
So when you think about it, I like the idea that you mentioned about service. When you think about it, and also through your observations, how do you see? Because I feel like there's the biggest disconnect for most of the people who are serving in different offices. I don't think, for the most part, the interests of the people are what motivates them. It's actually what they are getting as a result of them being in office, instead of thinking about the people. Do you think that people, the office changes them, or they have intentions of doing good, and then when they get there they simply forget about the people? Or other people says, actually power reveals who you are? Do you think they have those deep-seated selfish motives before they get there, and when they get there they're actually just amplified? Because I feel like, for the most part, everybody can say that they are for the people, not until they get to the office then things begin to look otherwise. What do you
Ye-
think?
Yeah, I think that's a correct observation. I think that it's a very important question to discuss. There are a lot of people that disappointingly use politics and even use religion to actually preserve their own interest or even pursue their interests using those avenues. And there's not a few of them. I'm talking about a lot of them.
Mhm.
And to some extent, I do agree that power and even money sometimes reveals the true character of someone. But to be honest with you, I think that these people who do that, or who all of a sudden change because they occupy some office, they're very short sighted and very narrow minded, because for them, what they look are the immediate personal needs or the needs of those who are around them, friends and family. So they use their office to advance that, or positions to advance that. On the contrary, I've met people who have occupied serious positions in life and been in top government positions, and they have not changed friends, they have not changed company, they have not become completely different from what I knew them before.
Mhm.
And these are people who understand, and they have a bigger perspective on things, have a bigger picture that they look at. They understand that power is temporary. It has an
Mhm.
expiration date.
Right.
No one can be in power for forever. Even these dictators, they may rule for 30, 40 years, but there's a fall, there's an end to that power.
Mm,
So once you understand that, it's the same as understanding life. If you understand that in life there's a day that you will die, and that day is coming, not whether you like it or not, you are more cautious of how you live your life because you think about what legacy am I going to leave when I go? What will people say, when I'm 6 feet under at my funeral? Will they lie? Will they say the truthful things about me? So, because you have that perspective, it makes you live differently. It's the same thing as when you occupy office. If you have a bigger perspective and you look at it from a service point of view, you look at it as, I only have maybe 5 years to serve, or even 8 or 10 years to serve. And after that, there has to be life after that. How will people remember me? What kind of service would I have given to the people? Then your conduct in office, the way you behave, and then that office doesn't change you. You actually
mm.
bring change to that office.
Wow, I love that. Speaking of legacy, let's shift a little bit. Legacy is the continuity of, even if someone has passed on, that the name will never pass on. People will always speak of the person who has passed on because they left a legacy. Now, in terms of achievement within ourselves, how can we then, as individuals, have the mindsets of embedding deeply in our minds that we need to leave a legacy? Is that something that can be taught? Is that something we have to unlearn a few things in order for us to overcome, selfishness or self-interest, so to speak? How can we strike that balance of saying, I want to achieve this for me, but also at the same time, I need to leave a legacy?
Yeah, that's a very difficult one, but let's see how we can break it down. It's true that as long as you're a human being, you have aspirations, you have goals, you have personal interests. But then at the same time, it is also true that when you have a greater call to
Mhm.
serve humanity, or if you are placed in a position to do that, you have to weigh the two. You have to strike a balance. And the only thing that guides you is your moral compass. Anyone that has any sort of morality, they will understand. For example, if I'm in a position where I have so much power, maybe I am a minister of the gospel, I'm a cabinet minister in government, I'm a president. Okay, offices like that or positions like that, they come with most of them come with so much power.
Mm,
And because you have that power, as a human being, you are tempted to use some of that power for your personal gain. But knowing that maybe if you did not do that, you can forego that to actually doing something for the people, even the people that you don't know, even the people that perhaps have never met you. It is a matter of having self discipline. It's a matter of having that moral compass and asking yourself, what is the right thing to do? When it comes to personal interests, we need to have these goals that we've set for ourselves. Maybe you want to make $1 million, or maybe you want to become a minister someday, or maybe you want to occupy some position. All those may be noble goals. But then the question that begs an answer is, what do you do with those goals when you achieve them? Because that is not for you. Even when you read the scriptures, you will remember that even Christ spoke in parables and talked about, giving these people talents, and some people went and multiplied on those talents, and some people sat on those talents. And so you recognize that even when you achieve these goals, they're not to benefit you per se. You have to achieve these goals so that you can spread the blessings you received, so that you can improve the lives of some people. Now, I know some people think that when we talk about this, they think that you have to do things out of the ordinary or earth moving to change someone's life. No, some people's lives just need a college education, a basic
mm,
college education. And you and me, Brother Kaluba, you'll agree with me that, for example, putting through someone at a teacher's training college probably costs $100 per term. Okay. That is something that somebody can afford who has a good job in the US. So it is a matter of priority. It is a matter of thinking about what is it that you can do for others, not for recognition, not so that people can talk about it after you're gone, but obviously for the sake of what the discipline you have, the consciousness that you have, and the moral compass that you have. Because it is morality that guides our actions. It is this self conscious, self awareness that guides our thinking and our actions. If we don't have that, it doesn't matter how much money I can give you or what positions I can give you, all of that would just be for vanity. I can
Right.
promise you that. The first thing, the first step to leadership, good leadership, the first thing that a good leader achieves is self awareness. You have to know your weaknesses, your limitations, and what you can do for others. That is self awareness. If you don't have that, you can have billions of dollars, you can be president of a powerful country, but all of that will be for nothing.
Wow. I really love that. The fact that you mentioned that the position does not define, the true change or the true impact that you have on the people. We, it's actually bigger than even the nation, because we look at it, people look about the nation, I look about even families, right? Like, it's not about you being the biggest, the loudest voice in the house. It's about how are you affecting the change even within the home.
Oh, yes,
Yeah, so I
absolutely.
really love that. I think that was very good, because other people can actually brute force power. They could
Oh,
essentially
yeah.
pick up arms and brute force, but that is not actually a true indicator of leadership. Forcing your will on the people and
No,
not
it's
being
not.
supported by the people, and then if you fail, then or you may seem to succeed temporarily, but it's not an indication of true leadership. I really love
and
that.
and and what is important to remember as well in terms of leadership is that the most effective way to lead is
Mm,
through, I mean, you and me can talk scripture someday, but it is through persuasion.
mm,
Okay. And how do you persuade other people? With the ideas you have, with what you have to offer them. Well, it is very simple. Persuasion is not, the opposite of that is forcing people, forcing yourself
mm,
on people because you're the big guy, because you have the money, because you
mm,
have this position, and so whatever you say goes. No, the effective way to lead, even if it's a small group of people that you're leading, even if it's 100 or thousands of people, it is through persuasion. So you have to learn that the powers of the priesthood, like they say. It's through persuasion. You only use that, in a righteous way through persuasion.
mm.
So, but that only comes about if you have self-awareness, if you know what you're capable of doing. That's why for leaders, I encourage people who are in leadership positions or want to pursue any kind of position in terms of leadership. Is that that's why for leaders, what you say matters to people, because sometimes other people will hold on to what you've said, and that can be a difference between having a good opportunity or having nothing for them. So leaders have to mean what they say and say what they mean. And if people begin to see that they can trust you because you have self-awareness, you know your weaknesses, you're able to use persuasion, trust me, then you have the influence. Then you'll be able to talk to people, then you'll be able to do things with people, then you'll be able to achieve things beyond your personal interests or your personal goals. And by the way, those who have been involved in any kind of service realize that even when you have your own personal goals and as you achieve them and serving other people, you only realize that there are only more opportunities that open up to serve others. And that amplifies you, that gives you more influence, that gives you leadership opportunities rather than narrowly sticking to what you want to achieve. But you need to have that discipline to align the two. You need to have that moral compass to figure out what should be the priority or not.
Wow, I love that. Now, in the age where things, most of the people, they only see the highlights or the limelight or the end result. They don't see what's in the back, the work that is being done. Sometimes people, They look at athletes, they look at these high performers, they look at these executives, they look at these CEOs, they look at these leaders. Or in the future, even for you, they will see, "Oh, Mr. President." There's always that assumption to say, "Hey, this just happened. It's luck.
Yeah.
He just fell into this." What can you share about some of the struggles that happens before the limelight or before the highlight? Because most of the times I feel like, especially the in the advent of social media,
Mhm.
it's everywhere, right?
Yeah.
And people that only showcase the end result or the glowing or the beautiful thing that is already polished out, but they don't show
Yeah.
the work that happens. What
Yeah.
advice do you have for the young ones who are coming, after us, for them to be able to learn that there's some sort of sacrifice, dedication, discipline, or work ethic that needs to be put in order for you to get to a desired state?
Yeah. There's no easy way out to success. There's no easy way out to any kind of a legacy or life that you want to build for yourself. It always requires a lot of hard work and discipline. But I can understand when you're young, you're impatient. So I can understand that for young people, some of them, and usually most of them, they're impatient. They want the
Mhm,
immediate results. They want the now. I remember I once had a conversation with my father when he said to me, I was only 21 years old, and he said to me, "You have a problem. And your problem is that you want to be a member of parliament today, you want to be a minister today, and you want to be a president today. That is your problem." And
mhm,
looking back, I understand what he meant by that. All of these people that we see and look up to who have succeeded in their careers, in their profession, in business, in their respective expertise, they've had to master the art of doing what they do. They've had to repeatedly work at it. But you're right, we live in a generation that is interesting, the social media era, and where you saw all sorts of commercials or advertisement. Take this and you lose your weight in 2 3 days, in 2 weeks. And so there are these advertisement for quick fixes.
mhm,
There are no quick fixes when it comes to achieving something that is meaningful, even for things such as being married. If you're married,
mhm,
it's work every day. There are a lot of things that you have to be alive to. You have to be awake. You have to be conscious. You have to be deliberate about making your marriage work. It is the same thing as athletes. No, people that play basketball, soccer. When Zambia is playing another team and all you see is us win 4-2 or we lose 2-1 to a certain team, what we see on that day is actually performance. But prior to that, there was preparation on the part of the team. The famous quote by Thomas Monson where he says, "When time for performance has arrived, for time for preparation is past." I've experienced that many times. I've spoken on different platforms. I've been called to meetings where that was a defining moment for me. I had to
right.
perform. I had to give a report. I had to speak about something. But prior to that, I've had to
Mhm,
sit down, collect my thoughts, know what I would like to talk about, try to understand who will be my audience and who I'll be speaking to.
mhm,
So there is no substitute for hard work. But also, it has to be fairly said that even through that process of hard work, there will be false starts, there will be failures. And that is part of us learning how to be patient, part of us learning the lessons that we have to learn in our failures so that we can do better next time. For me, I would encourage all young people to be bold, to be courageous, to take risks. But when they fail, they have to think, go back and think again, and then try even harder. Because that is the only way that you can succeed. Because you cannot succeed if you do not fail. There are very few people who are exceptions, are very lucky that they've done something for the first time and it just worked out for them. Those may be exceptions. Those are outliers. Those are one in thousands. Most of us have to learn the lessons. We have to go through the system. We have to go through how things work in the real world. Some of us have applied to jobs that we didn't get, but we wanted those jobs. Some of us have had to wake up in the night to study because we have an exam. So all these things are things that you have to work at. But what is important is that you need to know what you want to achieve in life. You need to have a roadmap, you need to have a plan, and you need to follow through with that plan with every effort that you can master, because only doing that is what will make a difference.
I really love that. Do you think, as a leader, for you to understand the people, you need to have gone through what the people have gone through to be an effective leader?
What I think is that you need to understand the people that you're working with or dealing with. You need to understand their psyche. You don't necessarily have to experience everything that the people experience. You
Mhm.
may have to live among these people to understand them. You may have to associate with these people to understand them. You may have to learn who they are, study, read, know everything you can about them, their culture, where they come from, what language they speak, what makes them think in a certain way that they think. Because every society have its norms, and so learn about those things. If you are good at that, if you can learn that, if you can master the people that you're dealing with, their psyche, how to talk to them, you can make a difference, because leadership is about influence, like I said. And both good leaders and bad leaders have influence. They have influence, and because they have influence, they are following. And so what makes the difference is your vested time and genuine interest in these people. You really have to have an interest in these people. You have to want to really know who they are, where they come from, what makes them think a certain way, and how you can help if there are problems that you think these people are faced with. And leadership is about solving problems, answering questions. That is what leadership is about. So I don't think you have to experience everything that these people experience, or the people that you're called to lead, but you certainly have to understand what they've been through. You have to understand where they're coming from. You have to understand how you can relate with them.
Mhm.
Even better, you have to speak the language that they speak, not literally the Bemba or English, but speaking the language, being on the same page with them. That is what makes a difference.
So, to young aspiring political leaders, what are some of the two words that you have, two words of advice, those kids who may be in high school or in primary school, two words of advice for them who are trying to enter into the political arena?
They should do two things. Number one, they should read. Read, read, read. And a good book to begin with would be the autobiography of Malcolm X. Read, read. And I'm not only recommending that, even Eric Holder, the
Mhm.
former Attorney General for Barack Obama, recommends that book more than anything else. So I read the book. It is brilliant. It's life changing for some people. But also, if you want to go in politics, especially young men and women from Zambia or Africa, you need to cultivate discipline.
Mhm.
You need to be able to say to yourself, what kind of a politician do I want to be one day? And so once you identify what you want to be, because trust me, there's so many politicians out there that are absolutely the best excuse why people shouldn't go in politics. But once you identify the kind of politician you want to be in terms of discipline, then stick to that. I can tell you that as young as 12 years old, I knew exactly what I wanted to be as a politician. In fact, some of my younger brothers, who were actually very young at the time, will tell you that I had stuff written down, even points of
Mhm.
what I would do if I was a politician.
Love that.
So two things. We need to go back to the culture of reading. We need to encourage our young people to read. And then also young people need to have discipline. Growing up, I used to wake up at 5 in the morning all the time to read before school. This is primary. I'm talking about grade 6 and 7. Even secondary became, even I think probably at 4 or 5, that I would wake up and do some reading before I'd go to school at 7:30 in the morning. So that kind of discipline needs to be instilled in us. We have to have that. And it is those politicians, young people who become politicians, that will make a serious change. The problem that we have made of late is that we've produced so called leaders or people who've just woken up today and they want to be ministers, they want to be MPs, they want to be presidents because they've seen there's money, because politics has been commercialized, and so everyone is making money out of politics. That is the worst we've done. We need to be able to produce leaders like, for example, Barack Obama. If you read the book that came out just before he left office called The Rising Star, it is explicit. It explains that Obama made his decision to run for the president of the United States and started doing something about that in his early 20s. So by the time he's 20, he knew what he wanted to achieve, not just for himself, but save his people. And so he started doing that. So he worked hard. He went to Columbia, went to Harvard, and then moved to Illinois, Chicago. And that was a deliberate move because he wanted to start his career there. So all of that needs to be put into perspective. For our people, they need to know this is the path I want. How do I achieve that? And hopefully, we can have some mentors out there that can help them, because it is not only enough for you to be disciplined and for you to read, it also helps if you know somebody who's done what you want to do or who's walking the path that you want to walk one day, because they can mentor you and help you. Those three make a huge difference.
Wow, I love that. That is fantastic. That was very brilliantly said. I really like the way you mentioned about Obama, even how he went, to do a lot of lobbying and, so that he can get a name out there for himself and win the hearts of the people, but not
Exactly.
just, fakely winning the hearts of the people. He was there, making sure that they
Oh,
trusted
yes.
him.
Oh, yes. I mean, after he graduated from Harvard with a law degree, he
Yes.
went to become a community organizer in Chicago, in Illinois. And I remember, I think, reading where his wife was, they were basically broke at some point.
Yes.
And his wife was even saying, listen, why don't you can be a clerk at the Supreme Court. Why don't you get a high paying job so we can pay these bills, so that we can get out of debt? And the man had a plan. The
Delayed
idea
gratification.
the idea was for him to be able to know what it means to work among the people, work with the people, organize people, and then transform those skills into a political career. And that's exactly what he did. But that's
Fantastic.
preparation.
That is so true. I definitely agree with you on that one. Why do we have a stigma towards politics being dubbed as the dirty game? Why do you think people call politics as the dirty game?
Yeah, I was hoping we wouldn't get to that. But anyway, let's face it. The truth is that, Brother Kaluva, in politics, there's a lot of money involved, which is people's money, taxpayers' money. There's a lot of deals that are cut behind closed doors, and there's a lot of deception. And all of this, it's because people want to get ahead of others. People want to be the ones making the buck. People want to be the ones making the money. Now, it's not just the money, but also if you do not manage fame, it can be addictive. Look at these socialites, social media celebrities, whatever you can call them. Every time they post something, they want to post something that has more likes than what they posted yesterday. Okay, they want to, and if they were dressed yesterday and they had 2,000 likes, they'll probably be half naked tomorrow so they can get 4,000, 5,000 likes.
Mhm.
Fame can be addictive. And so all of these combinations, all of these factors are at play when you talk about politics. Therefore, it becomes extremely unpleasant to engage in politics if you most of the times if your heart is in the right place, because of course you have people that will be mudslinging you, people that want to destroy your name so that they can have an
Mm,
advantage.
right.
So because of that, it's the tactics that people use that make the game look really, really bad. But having said that, that cannot be an excuse for any well meaning person to be engaged in politics. In fact, the more we engage in politics of rationalization, politics of ideas, and not politics of personalities, then it's going to be more attractive to the next generation. We'll pass on a better image of what politics should be, or the telos of politics, or what should be the purpose of politics to the next generation. It'll be more attractive to me, when growing up, I didn't see politics as really a dirty game. I mean, I heard
Mhm.
about that many times, and and I know there were some political assassinations, unfortunately, during that era that I was referring to. But overall, I looked at the players, you know, the way that, like I mentioned, the late Dean Mungomba came and challenged Chiluba on ideas and the back and forth. It was the intellect, the intelligence at play of how these men and political parties disagreed on ideas that attracted me personally, you know.
I love that.
So I think that unfortunately, to some extent, that may be true because of the tactics that people deploy to disadvantage one against the other. But we cannot leave it to those people that don't mean well. We cannot leave the game to people that will continue to project this image that politics is dirty. We can practice good politics going forward. We can practice politics where people contend and fight each other over ideas rather than insults or things like that. And we can practice politics where we're all striving to not be corrupt, where we're striving to serve the people rather than being able to go in there to make money or steal from the government coffers. I think that we have a chance. We have a chance to do things differently. And if we
Mhm.
do things differently, we'll be able to pass on a better image to the next generation in terms of politics.
Well articulated, well said, and I really appreciate that. You spoke about mentorship earlier. How does one overcome the gatekeepers when one is striving really hard to get mentors, and then mentors have built themselves walls? How do you get around those walls to be able to access the right mentors? Because
Yeah,
in anything in life, I view it as, I'm in technology. I've worked in several different corporate organizations. For one to actually do really well, you need sponsors and mentors. There was another lady who articulated that really well at some point. Sponsors and mentors. She defined them really well. Says sponsors are actually the ones behind doors who are actually fighting for your cause. Mentors open the door for you. But
yeah,
I feel like sometimes we, as people, especially people who have achieved a certain level of success, sometimes they feel like they should be the only ones and they don't open themselves up to the other generation so that they can have access to those mentors.
yeah.
Now, if you are the young generation or the young or the youth seeking for those mentors and you kind of encounter obstacles, how can you navigate that to access the right mentors who will champion your cause?
That's a brilliant question. And I have to also add to the fact that even in politics, you need both sponsors and mentors. You can't do without those two. A sponsored would be people just like she explained, the person that you're referring to, that are fighting for you, that even make contributions to your cause, that go out there and mobilize your constituency or people that should be voting for you. And then you have mentors, you have people that you need to be able to sit down with, go to them and say, I want you to do this. How do I go about this? Or if you can even be in a position of making decisions. You may be the elected leader of some area or some political party, and you still need people to say, listen, you've done this before, or you've walked down this path, or you know somebody that's done this. I need to make a decision about this. What should I do? That is what mentors are for. But it is true that sadly, they gatekeepers. There are people that would stop you from talking to those people that you desperately need to launch a career, to advance your career, to go forward in terms of achieving your goals. I'll give you very few examples, personal examples. I've had the privilege of meeting people that have served as cabinet ministers in our government over a period of time. I have known people like Dr. Ludwig Sondashe personally. I met and knew the late Dr. Ngandu Magande, whom we just recently lost, former
Yes.
finance minister. So I have been privileged to know those people. But the process of getting to know them was not an easy process. I remember I went to Dr. Ludwig Sondashe's office. At least I went several times. It took me about 2 months from the first day I made contact with the secretary but 2 months to the day that I had to sit down with him in person. This is a former cabinet minister, works and supplies, also former Minister of Justice during the Chiluba administration. So, and then when I sat down with him after that 2 months of trying, he's not here, he's busy, he's out of the country. And after sitting down with him for what I thought would be 10 minutes or 15 minutes, we spoke for almost an hour and a half. And he said to me, "Why didn't you see me earlier?" I said, "I've been coming for 2 hours." And he called the secretary and said, "This young man has been trying to see me, but it's not been successful. I'm just meeting with him now. What's taking so long?" And then she, of course, explains, "No, the few times he came here, you're not around or you're busy." But that speaks to the point that you've raised. The question that you're asking here is, how do we deal with these gatekeepers? It is not easy. It's extremely difficult. Usually, most of us come from nothing, and we may be seeing we have nothing to offer, and we may be seeing like there is nothing we can tell these mentors, or sometimes it's also just human nature that those gatekeepers want to sideline us. They don't want us to get to their bosses. Fortunate enough, we live in an era where we can use different resources. We have technology. You can build your profile, you can send emails, you can try to, if they have a number, you try to call them. But the most important thing is that you need to be clear with the type of the mentor that you need. Tell yourself, who do I want to see? Not everyone is going to open doors for you. Who do I need to see in this area? Who can I learn from? And then once you identify, write a list of maybe 3 to 5 specific individuals that you want to see. Then begin thinking. Do some thinking. How do I get to this person? What ways can I use for me to be able to access them, talk to the gatekeepers? And then be persistent
Mhm.
until you get the results, the desired results. I just came back from Zambia about a week ago, and I was in the country for just 1 week and 3 days. But in that 1 week and 3 days, I was able to sit down with the immediate past president, President Edgar Lungu. And I can tell you that it is not easy to see the man. It is not. But before my trip, I had to do homework. I knew this man has been president before. This man and me should sit down someday and talk. How do I do that? So you formulate a plan. And in that plan, you're going to see that there'll be gatekeepers. The man still has an ADC, he has protection, and it's difficult to get to him. I think I saw him around. I was coming back on Sunday. I saw him on his birthday, which was a Saturday, the day before. I got to where he was at some unknown location. This was around after 21:30, 9:30 p.m. There were other people there sang happy birthday for him, gave him a cake. And about 30 minutes, those people left. And they said to me, "You stay, we need to talk." And everybody left. And so at about past 10 p.m., 22 hours, I was with him from that time, one on one, almost to 1 in the morning. So, so that I can tell you, Brother Kaluba, that it took me at least 6, 9 months of preparation
Mm.
to get that kind of appointment, to sit down with that person. Even when I sit down, the most important thing is not actually sitting down with them. The most important thing is, what do I talk to this man about when we meet? What kind of information do I need from him when we have this conversation? So finally, we're able to do that. And I don't know if I should make this public, but anyway, it's okay. I can mention this. Even by the time we were leaving, the former president was able to request for my number. Okay. So that shows that not only was I successful in trying to access him, but even when I accessed him, we had talked about something that was substantive to an extent that he wanted to be in touch.
Right.
So the point I make is that this is not easy. There's another man I know who's from a different country. He was an ambassador to India at some point, and I wanted to learn from this man. He's running for president in that country where he's from, and I needed to have a conversation with him. We had some common ground, me and him.
Right.
And so when I approached him from the social media platform, there's a number that he's up there. I had to call that number, and lucky enough, I got through to his personal assistant. and spoke to the personal assistant. I introduced myself, told him what I do, and I said, I really need to see him if it's possible. And he says to me, where are you based? I said, I'm in America right now. And he said, well, he's coming. He'll be in Utah around this period of time. So I'll speak to him, set up an appointment. And I met the man in Utah. So gatekeepers will be there. List down the names of the people you want to be your mentors, and you mean it. And they need to be people that inspire you. Don't worry about how to access them. They inspire you. You've read so much about them. You know almost everything that needs to be
Mhm.
known that's in the public about them. Then start thinking, how do I
Mhm.
access this person? How do I get them? If it means you send an email, send an email. If there's an email address. If it means there's a contact number, you call them personally, introduce yourself. That way, you may be able to be like him. I've not succeeded with everyone that I
Mhm.
think is my mentor, but I've been able to access a few that I've spoken to. So it is a work in progress. You cannot be discouraged. You have to be persistent.
Wow, that was really fascinating. So you are mentioning that it's important to know your why. Why are you doing what you're doing? If your why is bigger than the obstacle, you will always find a way.
Absolutely.
So it's very,
Mhm.
very important the way you've explained it, and also giving us an example. I think that was very, very useful for our listeners and viewers out there that
Because if you
you know
know your why, if you don't know your why, you will give up when you face
100%.
rejection by a gatekeeper. If you don't know your why, I would not have been going to see Dr. Sonda Shetty's office for nearly 2 months. I
Yes,
wouldn't have done it. I know why. This is the man I've read about. This is the man I know. This is the man that has been on television. I know so much about him. I just need an audience with him. So I kept going. So that why is very important. It makes a difference.
that is fantastic. The last question for you: what are your passion projects aside from the career aspirations that you're looking for and forward to? Do you have any passion projects?
Yes, I do have a registered nonprofit organization here in Texas, but it's also registered in Zambia. It's
Mhm.
called Talala Africa. Talala Africa, Talala is a Bemba phrase or word which means don't cry. Or if someone is crying, you tell them Talala, meaning, psh, everything will be okay. So
Mhm.
Talala Africa is a nonprofit organization that focuses on basically three pillars. We want to make a difference in the education sector among the vulnerable in Zambia. So we actually have done a few things as a pilot project. There's, I think, two or three young ladies because we have a board here in the US and there's an operational board in Zambia. I don't make all the decisions, but the board sit down, make plans, and then come up with projects. There's been about two or three young girls who have been put through one teachers training college. She's just graduated this November. For the last 3 years, tuition paid for. She's vulnerable. Parents couldn't afford, but she approached the organization. I put her on a soft scholarship. We're looking forward to do literacy programs, donate books, visit vulnerable schools, and see how we can help like community schools. Then also the other area of focus is health. In health, we have a lot that is going on. We have a partnership with an eye doctor out of California, also from Utah as well. And we're going to do the Key to Zambia Vision project or eye care project. We have already been given some equipment donated to us for eye care. So this equipment will be donated to the Quito Central Hospital, which has an eye clinic, but it is also a university teaching hospital for, I think, 12 students who are becoming eye doctors. And so we donate that equipment to them. And then I think mid next year, this team of volunteer doctors, eye doctors, will go from the US to Zambia to go train these students on the donated equipment. Some of it's new technology. And then also do community outreach programs, screening, eye screening, and things like that. We also are looking at rural areas. We want to go into the rural areas. We know that some of our women and our mothers travel long distances to a nearby clinic to give birth. We have a high infant mortality rate in Zambia. We want to reduce that. So we'll focus on certain areas where we can build a birth center. So this will just be a center that is built for the community. They'll take care of it. They'll have beds, and then train the elderly women in basic midwifery skills, how to self-delivery of babies and things like that. So on the health front, those are some of the projects that our organization is looking into and should be starting a few beginning of next year. The last bit of the area of focus is youth empowerment. We're looking at creating a program to encourage young people to go into entrepreneurial skills. We'll build a youth center once we get a piece of land and be able to teach them in computer literacy skills, train them in business skills, train them in carpentry and other trade skills that they need so that they can be. I'm very passionate about young people. I recognize talent when I see it, and I
Mm.
want to encourage a lot of them to become entrepreneurs, to be more innovative. So outside of politics, this is what keeps me going. This is what excites me. I think that if you take that away from me, I'll be very miserable. But we want to build a community that brings all of us together, gives us opportunities. Some of us have been blessed to be here, but this is our time to kind of pay back. And through a nonprofit, we find ways that we can help our people in education, health, and to empower them in small ways that we can.
That is fantastic. Mr. Ngambi, it's been an absolute pleasure, having you on Impact Over Image. And we are so happy that you are impacting a lot of people out there through your, different people that you write for, the papers, so that people can be educated as well on what's happening, in the countries where they come from politically, so that they know what is going on, so that they can learn as much as they can. But with that said, also not having the talents fall through the cracks. I really enjoyed what you said, capturing the youth, those that you pick out that that these are actually our future leaders. We shouldn't let the talent go through the cracks. We
I,
wish you well, and we are
I,
actually, yeah, we are actually gonna we are looking forward to having you again. This is not the end of it. Go
I have
ahead.
I have to say, Mr. Kaluba, that I learned from you. I know that you help a lot of young people back home, and I think you keep it very secretive that people don't know what you're doing. But trust me, I have my eyes and ears on the ground, so I hear everything. But
Yeah.
our young people, the next generation need to be better than our generation.
Mm.
I think you and me can agree that we struggled and we did everything almost by ourselves. And so, with the little that we have, if we can reach back and create a starting point for some of these young men and women, if we can create an environment where they can begin to pursue opportunities that we never had, I think that you and me can leave this planet Earth happy
Mm.
and fulfilled. I think that is the goal. Now, some of us want to go into politics because we think that if, God willing, we achieve our goals and be given a political office, that will open up more influence. That will give us more base of people that we can help. You can agree with me that in Africa, especially Zambia, you can have all the money that you want.
Right.
But if you don't have influence, you can only help people so far. But if I'm elected president, in the next elections or in the elections after that, you would agree with me that I would be able to impact much more people than
Right.
I would have had if I had 2 million US dollars. So
Right.
that is
Right.
just an example. I think that we need both ends of the spectrum. We need both things that we have to pursue, both in terms of charity work, nonprofit, in terms of politics, but also in terms of what we can do for ourselves, our families, and our people. So, having said that, I want to thank you for your time. It's been a pleasure. I'll be here when you need me, provided the schedule allows.
Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure, and we will definitely have you on here. And good luck to everything that you are seeking, and we know that things will work out.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
Thank you.